MMA is a brutal combat sport. Fighters often walk away from the octagon with bruises, cuts, sprains, and sometimes broken bones. We're spotlighting the most vicious injuries in the category of face injuries. These injuries are so savage that they're still talked about years later.
First 3 rounds of the fight. Oh my God.
Cyborg Santos, bang!
Came out all guns blazing. It was like Daenerys Targaryen and King.
And watch this punch. Look at the blood spray out of it, and that is exactly what happened. The cauliflower, not at all. She's such an animal. Oh!
Back-to-back left hooks from the young Jędrzejczyk.
So sit back and buckle up, because these injuries are about as cringeworthy as it gets. And they'll have you watching through your fingers. Alistair Overeem. UFC heavyweight fighter Alistair Overeem suffered one of the most horrific face injuries in the history of MMA. In 2019, Overeem battled Jairzinho Rozenstruik. The fight was nearly over, and with only 4 seconds left on the clock, Rozenstruik threw a right-hand punch, ripping Overeem's lip all the way up to his nose.
It's a big deal. Look at, here's these clean strikes. He's more relaxed.
That he's not defending his legs at all.
Based on the fight, Overeem was gonna win if it hadn't been for that last punch that sent him to the canvas and destroyed his face.
It's Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 456.
Left jab. Boom, he threw everything into that right hand. The ref hadn't stopped it to that point. Oh, he stops when Alistair's...
Medical officers immediately stitched up the injured lip, but it still looked pretty gruesome. After undergoing plastic surgery, Alistair's lip bears only a small scar. Brandon Vera. In 2010 at UFC Live 1, Brandon Vera and Jon Jones stepped into the octagon to face off in the night's main event. During the first round, Jones's elbow delivers a blow to the right side of Vera's face near his eye socket and causes the fighter 3 facial fractures.
And immediately, Vera covered up, torqued it, threw it. Fight is over.
Vera was unable to continue the fight, and he was immediately taken to hospital for treatment. The fighter underwent surgery, and he had to wear a protective mask for several months. After the fight, Brandon's manager Matt Stansel says his entire face was numb following the hit. This loss to Jones marked Vera with his second consecutive loss, which included a unanimous decision defeat to Randy Couture at UFC 105. Sage Northcutt. In 2019, during his debut fight against Cosmo Alexander, Sage Northcutt's face was brutally injured. During the first round, only 29 seconds into the fight, Alexander lands a right hook blow to Northcutt's face and knocks him out cold. Even though Super Sage was up and walking around following the knockout, it was later revealed after a hospital trip that he had 8 facial fractures. The extent of his injuries landed him in surgery for 9 hours to repair the damage done.
People that want to grapple with him.
In a photo posted to his Instagram, you can see the fighter smiling under his oxygen mask, with an X-ray photo of the fractures behind him. Although Sage is optimistic on his recovery, the UFC fighter wouldn't step back into the octagon again for another 4 years, following complications from his injuries. Leslie Smith. In 2014 at UFC 180, women's bantamweight contender Leslie Smith faced off with Jessica Eye. During the second round, Jessica Eye threw a right hand at Smith, hitting her ear, causing a horrific explosion on impact. Blood spewed everywhere, and the fighter's earlobe was left dangling, only partially attached.
Let's take a look at the replay here. Look at the punch. Watch this. Boom. Look at it spray. And that is just the cauliflower separating from the ear. And that's for that punch, but now you see it here.
The fight was stopped, and Smith had her ear stitched back together. Smith wasn't cleared to fight for 50 days. and she then told reporters she'd be wearing headgear for the rest of her career. This injury's been labeled one of the most disgusting UFC injuries of all time by MMA fans everywhere. Cyborg Santos. In 2016 at Bellator 158, Cyborg Santos suffered a traumatic fracture to his skull during his fight with Michael Page. It was the second round of the bout when Page landed a flying knee directly into Santos' skull. Page celebrated his win as Santos was taken to hospital.
In a fight, you lose off the liver shot. It can come back.
Cyborg runs into the jump knee, and it's over.
The hospital confirmed Santos' injury and revealed his skull had literally caved in. The refs of the fight said it sounds like a baseball being hit out of the park when Page's knee collided with Santos' forehead. Santos underwent a 7-hour reconstructive surgery which he had to pay for out of pocket, and began a long healing process. Although Santos told his fans he'd return to the octagon soon, he ended up retiring shortly after the injury. Joanna Jędrzejczyk. In 2020 at UFC 248, Joanna Jędrzejczyk fought Weili Zhang. The fight went 5 rounds, but during the third round, Zhang unloaded a collection of powerful punches to Jędrzejczyk's face, causing abnormal swelling that worsened with each passing round.
Stays at kickboxing. She is fast.
She is swelling under that right eye, but starting to fuck.
Look at that swelling on her forehead. That is nasty.
The swelling was a result of a horrifying face hematoma. The female fighter was completely unrecognizable by the 5th round. After the fight, she was immediately hospitalized, and she told reporters that she went blind for 2 days. Along with the temporary blindness, she sported a completely discolored and bruised face for weeks. Alex Nicholson. In 2016 at UFC Fight Night 82, Alex Nicholson made his UFC debut against Misha Cernikov. Right from the beginning of the fight, Cernikov put non-stop pressure on Nicholson, taking strikes to work at getting in close. Nicholson repeatedly scraped himself up off the mat and made it to the second round without much damage. In the second round, however, Cernikov submitted Nicholson via neck crank, and in the process he broke both sides of the fighter's jaw after he also broke his nose. During the submission, an audible loud pop was heard.
For this kind of covered up. He needs to grab a wrist. Oh, there's a tap.
And immediately Nicholson started frantically tapping. Nicholson had a previous jaw break, and many speculate that may have had something to do with his injuries sustained during the fight. Robbie Lawler. In 2015 at UFC 189, Robbie Lawler took on Rory MacDonald. Lawler ultimately defeated MacDonald via 5th round knockout, defending his welterweight title but not without sustaining a massive lip injury. The battle between the two fighters started off slow, but in the second round it exploded, and by the 4th round both fighters were covered in blood.
And both of them having a tough time breathing. Sometimes it's your second or third trip around the track, which is your best.
So he's catching him off.
He's staggered by that kick.
He's hurt.
He's hit again. Lands it.
He's hurt. He's hurt.
This may be it.
That's it.
The fight was so brutal, both fighters were dismissed of their post-fight obligations, and they were immediately sent to the hospital. Along with his horrendous torn lip, Lawler also broke his nose. His opponent MacDonald broke his nose and foot during their brawl. Matt Mitrione. In 2016 at UFC Fight Night 81, heavyweight Matt Mitrione was defeated by his opponent Travis Brown. As if the defeat wasn't devastating enough for Mitrione, he also walked away from the fight with a dislocated shoulder and a golf ball-sized hematoma. Mitrione's shoulder was dislocated when his opponent slammed him down hard in the 3rd round. After the dislocation, Brown went for the mount and landed punches and elbows before the fight was stopped. Mitrione credits the 2 eye pokes given to him by his opponent Brown for his broken orbital. There was considerable controversy that Brown wasn't docked a penalty point after the 2nd eye poke. And that wraps up our video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to catch all the latest everything MMA. Here are the top comments from our last video. One fan said, "My legs actually hurt watching this." And another said, "Ooh, leg breaks are so hard to watch." If you want to be featured in our next video, all you have to do is comment below.